We're riding high off another Browns win, a big one. Buckeyes, huge game, and lots of fantasy football to talk about heading into Thanksgiving week. Let's kick it off right now on the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara. The sickest Cleveland Browns podcast.
Chubb runs, he's to the 10, 15, he's to the 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. There goes Chubb, he's to the 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown, Shabba Lubba Hub.
It's gonna be sick.
Well, you heard the call from the great Jim Donovan. It was back at the game, calling the action. And Nick Chubb wasn't running, but he did make an appearance. What a feel-good day in Cleveland at the stadium. How about it? Nick Chubb coming out, crowd roars, then showed him in the suite. Jim Donovan smashing the guitar and calling a heart-stopping 13-10 win over the Pittsburgh Steelers and prove once again that Kenny Pickett sucks. And for once, the Browns got a Pittsburgh coach fired. Matt Canada, Bootski, terrible offensive coordinator. He is gone. Pittsburgh left in shambles, wondering what went wrong. Well, you know what went wrong? Myles Garrett in the defense. The kicker, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, digging down. And when it counted the most, went 4 for 4 and led that drive. What a beautiful game. We'll get to lots of fantasy football talk too, folks. Remember, Thanksgiving Thursday, and there's a lot of players in action there. So we'll get to your hashtag Ask Andy questions. Get us on social media. You can send them there. Of course, lots of Browns talk at SickPodBrowns, at AndyMC81 on Twitter X, and on Instagram and TikTok at AndyMC Sports. Click subscribe. Look in the description of the show. Some fun gear, fantasy football, Browns gear you can get there too. So, hey, you know what? We're going to give out some dog bones in a moment. We're going to talk about this game. Get ready for the Buckeyes game against that team up north as well. Huge football week in Ohio. Let's bring in my guy, senior digital content producer, on-air contributor for WKYC TV in Cleveland, the return of Dave DeNatale. Dino, how are you, buddy?
Andy, good to see you, my man.
Good to see you. Oh, and we're on such a good positive note because we beat the Steelers the week before we beat the Ravens. Browns on a 3-game winning streak. And guess what, Dino? The Browns are tied for the second best record in the entire AFC at 7-3 after that Kansas City loss. It's beautiful. I love it. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great because, consider they're doing this without not just one or two key players. They're doing this without their franchise quarterback. You just played the Nick Chubb, highlight to start the show. They're doing it without Nick Chubb. They're doing it without arguably their best offensive lineman in Jack Conklin, let alone, you're on your third string offensive tackles. It's pretty amazing how they're doing this. I didn't think that, they would be able to recover from all of these setbacks and still be able to, not just, win, but thrive. And, the fact that they're legitimately one of the best teams in the AFC right now, it's a real credit to Kevin Stefanski. It's a real credit to, I think, bringing in somebody like Jim Schwartz to revitalize the defense. And it's a real credit to that locker room because they've not allowed any of these injury setbacks to deter them from the goal. And it's pretty amazing.
3 different quarterbacks have gotten a win this year. They signed Joe Flacco. Who would have thought, we'd be talking about Joe Flacco being on the good guy side for once as a veteran add-on? With that adding, I guess we hope we don't have to ever see Joe Flacco play because DTR will hopefully keep progressing and all that. But how do you feel? I feel even at 38, and even though he's won 1 game in the last 3 years or so, I still feel a little more comfortable with a veteran presence like a Flacco who's won a Super Bowl rather than just depending on PJ Walker at this moment.
I'm going to take your viewers and listeners back on a little time trip. 35 years ago, it was 1988. The Browns had been to 2 consecutive AFC championship games. They were all set for, the Super Bowl in 88. Bernie Kosar was on the cover of Sports Illustrated's preview issue. Everybody had the Browns going to the Super Bowl. First quarter, first game, Bernie Kosar injures his elbow. He's out for about half the season. Next quarterback up, Gary Danielson. breaks his leg in week 2, out for the year, essentially out for his career. Third quarterback, Mike Pagel, injures his shoulder trying to make a tackle on special teams. It was after a blocked field goal. He misses about essentially half the year. So the Browns have to go down to the DeNatale Country Club in Florida to get 38-year-old Don Strock off the golf course to come up to Cleveland and be the quarterback. And all Strock did, he was the quarterback when the Browns beat the Philadelphia Eagles with Buddy Ryan's defense and Reggie White and that great front line that they had. And then, he's called on again after another Kozar injury and has to beat the Houston Oilers in week 16 to get the Browns into the playoffs. Browns fell behind 21-3. They came back, won 24-23, make the playoffs. Strock has arguably the greatest performance of his career. They have a song here in Cleveland, instead of rock around the clock, rock around the Strock. This is a long way of me saying, if they have to go to Joe Flacco, I think he can beat Don Strock 2.0, and that is win a game for you. If DTR is struggling or whatever, I think Joe Flacco can pitch relief and win a key game for you down the stretch, where I think you and I probably would agree PJ Walker's I know he did in a similar situation in Indianapolis. I don't know if that was a formula that was going to allow itself for success in December.
Yeah, no, you're right. I love that story too with Don Strock. Off the golf course, you get it. And look, Joe Flacco came in. We know he doesn't need the money. He's made a ton of cash. He apparently threw 8 passes, and they're like, "Yep, he looked good shape." Apparently was, and by mobile, we're not talking about the same mobile quotations, but he could move his feet. They weren't in cement block. And Dino, you know what? You're right. And PJ Walker, all credit. If the Browns go on a deep playoff run, credit to PJ Walker. That dude. He dug down and used every ounce of it, but he's not the guy you want to have. At least we know this. Joe Flacco is not going to be rattled. The guy's won a Super Bowl. He's not going to be rattled on the road. He's not going to be in a moment's not going to be too big for him. He's a Super Bowl MVP. So it's a good signing. But I think, what we hope is that this is what I would love to see in Denver this week is we see with DTR a little bit more of the playbook open. Yes. Because I think what we know now, Denver's going to be sitting, they're going to be clogging up that middle just like Pittsburgh did in the second half. So Stefanski's going to have to work in at least a couple deep balls to keep them honest. And they have to be safe deep balls because you don't want those turnovers.
Right. It's a fine line. You have to figure out how much I can, as you say, open the playbook without making DTR a potential turnover machine.
Yeah.
I do think the trust will be there for more plays, but it was very hard to watch that third quarter and even into the fourth quarter on Sunday because, Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin is no dummy. He understood what was going on. They made the adjustment. Okay, listen, the Browns aren't going to be throwing anything more than a 10-yard pass. So let's bring everybody up and into the box and really kind of flood everything. That meant running and short passes. And Denver's, I don't care what the Broncos record is. And by the by, they're playing better as we saw on Sunday night. Mile High is a difficult place to win for any quarterback. You have to, you adjust for the altitude, you adjust for the, just the crowd.
Yeah. They beat the Chiefs there, Dino. They beat the Chiefs.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is going to be a challenge for DTR. And that's why if Flacco is there as a backup, I'll feel better. And if he's ready to go as the backup, I'll feel good in the sense that if DTR gets into trouble, you have a viable option, again, to come in and pitch relief. But with the Browns defense and what they do out there, every game should be fairly close from this point in. I don't expect Denver to go in and put a boatload of points on the Browns defense. So you're going to see, I think, a lot of scores like we saw Sunday, 13-10, 16-13. Dustin Hopkins better get ready to kick a lot of field goals.
Thin air. They can go farther.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And the Denver defense is good, not great, but the offense is better than what Pittsburgh had. So you kind of balance out a little bit that way to see how that goes. Before we get into that Denver game, let's hand out some dog bones for that Pittsburgh one. Let's do it. All right, Dino, where are we going with your dog bone here? You can have a couple each side of the ball. There's a few names that jump to mind, but who's your MVP? Who gets your game balls, your dog bones this week?
Oh, this is an easy one. It's not a player. My colleague, my very dear friend, Jim Donovan.
Yes.
And you mentioned it a little bit in the open. Andy, I can't tell you how it felt to be. I went into a meeting last week. There was only 2 or 3 of us who knew in the entire building at Channel 3, but I had to write the story that Jimmy was coming back so then we could throw it out and get it out. So I happened to be in the know before everybody else was around, in Cleveland. And it was like, oh my God, I can't tell anybody he's coming back. I can't. But
so
to see the joy on his face when he walked out and then, as you said, smashed the guitar, to hear him call the action in the booth and to see him get the game ball after the game from Kevin Stefanski, and just the joy. It was really, I think he said to me yesterday, it was one of the greatest days of his life. Wow. And for all he has been through with not one, but now 2 bouts with leukemia, it meant so much to see him back, and it meant so much to the players that he was back. I mean, if you looked at Myles Garrett's Instagram account, one of the Jimmy's picture, Joel Bitonio talked about it. I mean, the players love him, the organization loves him, and so I'm going to give my dog bone to Jimmy. He's back, and
beautiful.
It's going to make this stretch run even more fun now for Browns fans because they're going to get to listen to Jimmy.
1000% agree, Dino. I love it. There's just something you hear the voice. It puts you. It just gives that big game feel. Like Jim was back here, and isn't it kind of just like, all right, man, we're all in this, and it's like you're in the booth with them. We're in it. We're going. You kick that field goal, and you did it, and you got it done. And I will credit this. We're give it when it's due to Kevin Stefanski on the negative side. Positive side. He was conservative. He was patient. And, Dino, we're seeing Kevin Stefanski grow up as a head coach and play caller before our very eyes this year. He's learning, and he's going. That running into a wall of the running game, he past Kevin Stefanski would have thrown it up a whole bunch deep. He stuck with it. And that gives me confidence going forward that he knows and he can do it and he can adjust on the fly, which is going to be super important down the stretch here.
Yeah, don't pay no attention to the yards per carry and things like that. There's a bigger goal here, and that's control the ball, control the clock, control the field position, control the game. And Kevin's understood that, and I can't say enough that the importance. I think there's a real trust that Jim Schwartz is on the headset a few feet down a few yards down the sideline from him. He doesn't have to worry about the defense.
Yeah.
Jim Schwartz can handle the defense. He just needs to, call the right plays and be the CEO of this team. I was in favor of him giving up the play card this year, but it's working out really well right now. And that's kudos to him more than halfway into the season.
Yep. And Bubba Ventrone on the special teams too. Like
no question.
You mentioned the defense and having that confidence. Well, it also allows him to run the ball because he knows his punter, Bojorquez, can boot it 60, 70 with placement yards almost every time. You had one little blip on something, but that happens. But you have that confidence for field placement. Then your defense comes in, and something that we have not had under Kevin Stefanski's reign has been confidence in those other 2 sides of the ball that allows him to be able to be more conservative and manage the game better. And of course, Dustin Hopkins, oh man, just absolutely incredible. Like, we have not had confidence in a kicker for this long of a stretch. It's got to be since Phil Dawson, right? Is that fair?
No question. No question. So you're talking, it's been a decade. And if you start thinking about potential Pro Bowlers / all pros on this team, well, yeah, I mean, Myles Garrett is top of the list, of course. Yeah. And you think about Denzel Ward, you think about Joel Bitonio, Wyatt Teller, on and on. I think both Bojorquez and Hopkins are going to be right in the mix at their respective positions. They have absolutely changed the game. Bojorquez has been brilliant all year, and he was great last year too, by the way. But Hopkins has been a game changer with the kicker. So I'm glad you mentioned Coach Ventrone, because I think that's been a big, big key this year.
Arguably the two biggest MVPs have been the coordinators. In this team, right? Because you have it, and you have a mindset switch too. Myles Garrett. It's funny. The year he's not talking about defensive player of the year and opening mention, it's about team, is when he's most apt to become defensive player of the year. Like, it's a different mindset. They're switching, they're attacking, they're swarming. You mentioned Denzel Ward and everything, and you're going to have a bigger test. Again, Russell Wilson, that team has quietly come along from their horrible start. You mentioned the tough building that they're playing in. It's a case where you're going to have to rattle him, and Sean Payton is as a big of a wild card as far as being a head coach himself in that game.
And you got tougher receivers to deal with, physical receivers. I mean, Cortland Sutton is very, very good. Jerry Jeudy is very, very good. I mean, this is going to put the secondary, and the Browns have an issue right now with safety a little bit with some injuries. McLeod is on IR. Juan Thornhill has been hurt. So, they need to get some health back there, because Russell Wilson's going to definitely try to air it out. No matter what the Browns do, pass rushing wise, he's going to try to put pressure on the Browns secondary.
Now, Dino, we said before we were on, we were talking a little bit about the Buckeyes and all that. And we got a big game against Michigan. It's X week, right? All the M's X'd out all over the place, that team up north. So take me back a little bit. This is a huge game Saturday for the Buckeyes, of course, but tie this into the Browns game, because I like what we were saying before.
Yeah, so we, while we're doing things here today in Cleveland, to get ready for Browns weekend and Buckeyes weekend. It's Thanksgiving week here in the States, obviously, and we're gearing up with some nonprofit events. And there was one particular one happening across the bridge in Ohio City, and you have Bernie Kosar is there. Andy, you'd be in heaven. I mean, Bernie Kosar is there, Denzel Ward is there, Kareem Hunt's there, Greg Newsom's there. But Jim Tressel was there, former Ohio State coach, of course, and Northeast Ohio native. And we talked to him, and one thing that Tressel was mentioning, obviously he spent a lot of time previewing the Buckeye game and the mentality you got to have to win your rival, beat your rival, especially up in Ann Arbor. But he talked about the Browns, and I think Jay Crawford asked him about the Browns almost having to play Tressel ball. Remember what Tressel ball was? Winning the most important play is a punt, and winning the special teams battle, being able to run the ball, play good special teams, and tough defense. When the Buckeyes didn't always have a great quarterback, that's how they used to beat opponents when Jim Tressel was there. Similar type of thing now.
Sounds familiar.
As the Browns go forward here for the rest of the year. So when you're watching the Browns Sunday and you're thinking about the Browns, think Tressel ball. Go back in a time capsule to the early 2000s when the Buckeyes weren't necessarily, even when Craig Krenzel was there, not a great quarterback situation, but you still find ways to win. And that's what the Browns have to do from here on in.
That's it, right? You're going to have to do that. You can win this game. You got Denver. They're going to stay out west to play LA as well, stay at the Eastern time or Western time zone. So you got 2 4:00 games, and then we're on. Then you're back home to Jacksonville. And everything is right there in front of the Browns. And Dino, really, we just have to, I think, hope for. We know the defense and special teams are going to bring it. We just hope for that development with DTR and that emotion, right? And Deshaun Watson, they're calming him down. And Joe Flacco, again, can be a mentor to him. How confident are you in this, that they can do that they can take this next step forward?
I'm somewhat confident, because I think the Browns are going to do everything, as we saw on Sunday, last Sunday, to put DTR in a position to succeed. And that's one of the reasons why they went out and got Joe Flacco. Not only because you've got somebody that can help you if you're struggling in the course of a game. Again, that idea of pitching relief, but that guy to kind of help supplement Deshaun Watson as a mentor, and to be able to talk to the young quarterback about what he's seeing out there when things are looking fast and coming out and fast and furious, and you're not sure what you're seeing. You've got the extra set of eyes that's experienced to help him. I think the Browns, they've got to be able to run the football.
Yeah.
And they've got to be able to avoid, what they call FIPS, fumbles, interceptions, penalties. Browns did a great job. I mean, I don't think the Browns had a penalty until the third or fourth quarter last week.
They had won the whole game, Dino.
Yeah.
Wild.
That's true. I mean, in a game against Pittsburgh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I don't expect that, but if you can keep those mistakes to a minimum, and that's the entire roster, then I think this is a formula that the Browns can continue with down the stretch. But Andy, just one last thought on that. Count it. I would say, DTR is going to have about 3 to 5 big boy throws per game. Deep. So 25 yards or more. You're gonna have to hit on a couple of those big boy throws. You don't have to do it the entire game. He may only have 175 yards passing per week, but he's got to be able to hit on a couple to keep the defense honest.
That's it, because if they cannot go back, and I don't expect Stefanski to go back to that same formula. He did what he had to do to win against Pittsburgh, but now the book's out. Crowd the line, call the Browns bluff, right? Call the bluff and make them do it. And you can do safe big throws. So this whole week, I hope they're practicing that. Like, I would love, let's get Cedric Tillman in college. Dino, the guy he's a big, we saw that pancake when he destroyed the, was a Raven guy, Van Noy.
Yeah.
Right? But he's a jump ball specialist. He's a big guy. You had the connection with him in high school. Let's see the big, you say big boy throws. Let's see the big throw to the big boy. Get him up there. Let's see some of those in a safe environment. So that if it's missed, it's only the Browns player that can catch it. And if you hit on that, then it pushes them back a little bit. And Denver's defense, as I said, it's good, but it's not to the same ferociousness as Pittsburgh's was. So if you do that, I think they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, you're not going to have Watt and Highsmith coming at you in this week. You don't even have Von Miller coming at you or Marcus Ware. So, I mean, this is, yes, it's a good defense. Denver always has good defense.
Yeah.
But this is not a defense that should be terribly intimidating for a young quarterback.
Yeah, if you're smart, and we hope DTR can build off of that. Dino, tell people where they can find your work, what you're doing, and all that.
Yeah, so you can read stories from myself, columns at WKYC.com. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dino Cleveland, and always love to talk to fans, especially on Sundays. Hit me up on Sundays during games. Nothing is like talking to Browns fans during game days and trying to help each other, console each other, educate each other, et cetera, calm each other down, a little bit of everything.
All during the game, and hopefully a big win for the Buckeyes this Saturday as well. Dino, thank you as always, man. Let's do it again soon.
Andy, anytime, my friend. Good talking to you.
You too, sir. There he goes. Dave DeNatale from WKYC TV in Cleveland. Man, I'm pumped for Sunday. Let's bring on Sunday. Let's bring it. Bring on them Broncos in Denver. We know the past. I don't have to bring up the past with the Denver Broncos. You're in there. They've beaten the Chiefs. This is going to be a tough out, but it's an important out because now with the Browns at 7-3, you got to be working those tiebreakers in the conference. So to me, if we were to look at the next 3 games, in Denver, in LA against the Rams, and then hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars. Out of those 3 games, if the football god said, Andy, you can only win 2, we want to be winning the Broncos and the Jaguars ones because it gives us those conference tiebreakers, gives us those wins within the conference. But let's dream big for a minute, guys, right? Let's 8-3 beat the Broncos. 8-3. What if you go to LA? Rams aren't a sure thing. We'll get to that in the fantasy football under the wire waiver wire pickups in a second. They're not a sure thing. You can beat the Rams. What if you come back home to host the Jacksonville Jaguars and you're 9-3? My goodness. Victory pancakes on every Monday. Chocolate chipped, everything. Sprinkles, put it all on. Celebrate. The victory coffee mug. It's all right there for us, folks. It's all right there for us for the taking. The Browns taking on the Broncos, and again, beating the Steelers. If you haven't seen my reaction video after the game, check it out. I was super fired up. I love doing those right after the game. Just sticking it to those squealers. Oh, the what? Take your pea yellow away, you terrible towel rags. Wipe your tears, you losers. You know what? Matt Canada sucked as an offensive coordinator. You know who sucks more? Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett blows. Terrible. I hope the Pittsburgh Steelers and their fans want Kenny Pickett as their QB. for the next 10 years. Please do me that favor. I can find you a Kenny Pickett in an NFL draft every year in the 3rd to 5th round. No problem. I can find you ordinary, average quarterback like Kenny Pickett every year in the draft, 3rd to 5th round. You want to keep in Pittsburgh? Please do. Please do. And I hope you fall apart. I hope you collapse. I hope you miss the playoffs. Go Browns. Yes. Love it. Okay. All right. Now we'll step into the fantasy football world. Thanksgiving. We know there's big games. We know there's a lot to get to. And we know we got to be looking under the wire. Okay, now here's interesting. Now I brought up the LA Rams, so the Browns will be playing in a couple of weeks. Here's the note we got to be looking at, all right? And this is something we're going to have to track, and because waiver wires go Wednesday, you're going to have to be preemptive. It might be a player that you don't actually use, but you might, and you might later on. Cooper Kupp listed as day-to-day with an ankle. It's a low ankle sprain. The high ankle sprains are the bad ones, low ankle sprain. Sometimes you can play through it. Sometimes it's a week. Tutu Atwell. Remember him from earlier in the season, old Tutu? We got to go get Tutu. And if you're a Puka Zakua owner, you need to be going to go get yourself either, if he's not on your roster or on your bench, play him if Cooper Kupp is out. Now we look at Tutu here. I just brought him up here. Hold on. Come on, Tutu. Where are you? He disappeared just like he disappeared once Cooper Kupp came back. There we are. 26% rostered for Tutu. Let's look at the first 3 weeks of the season. 17.9, 15.2, 17.2. And then Yale went down with Cooper Kupp coming back. He had another touchdown along the way. I had one in weeks 5 and 7. But his target share went way, way down. Before that, it was 8, 9, 9, 9, 9. Cooper Kupp goes off. Tutu's going right back in and is super usable. So Tutu would be one of my top wide receiver ads this week. And again, you might not use him this week, but you might. You got to get ahead of the game there. Then we look at running back position. Well, if you were for the Seattle Seahawks, a Zach Charbonnet, get your glass of Charbonnet owner, and you've been holding on and you've been waiting, well, now's your chance to play him. And if he hasn't, he's only rostered in 45% of leagues, and he is going to be the most added guy. Kenneth Walker's injured, going to be out for a couple weeks at least. And he got touches. He looked pretty good, right? Went 12.9 fantasy points in PPR, had 6 receptions, caught all 6 of the passes thrown his way. So we know he can catch. Now he's going to get more of a chance to run. So under that 50% marker, if he is not owned, this is a case where if you got fab dollars and you're sitting on them, I'd be looking to spend this time of year with a guy who's going to be getting a big load of carries and work. I'd be looking to spend probably 30 to 40%, somewhere in between there of your fab, because look, it's getting late in the year. What are you saving it for? Especially with the trade deadline that's out. Now, also, if you have any fantasy football questions in the meantime, as we lead up to Thanksgiving, whatever it might be, make sure you're getting me on Twitter at AndyMC81, at SickPodBrowns, and use hashtag AskAndy. Okay, and on Instagram as well at AndyMCSports. You can check out the reaction videos there as well. So we got Zach Charbonnet sitting there potentially. That's someone. Now, Zach Wilson benched. I got a couple Tim Boyle questions in, folks. Okay, the answer is no for the Jets. No. Do not go the Tim Boyle road. Do not do that to yourself. Go with Desmond Ridder. Desmond Ridder is back in. He's going to be the quarterback for the rest of the season. Tim Boyle or Desmond Ridder, go Desmond Ridder. Now, I'm not super thrilled about that, but Desmond Ridder is a better play. Tim Boyle, like Garrett Wilson, you're going to play him, but you downgrade. Breece Hall, you can play. Just try to avoid the Jets. Just try to avoid the Jets. And it's I would go Tommy DeVito. By God, Tommy DeVito. Did you see he scored the touchdown? He did the Italian thing on the field. Beautiful. Is that the new money sign? He's doing the Tommy DeVito in his face. Why not? The Giants stink. Have some fun with it, right? I would rather Tommy DeVito than Boyle. I think I'd rather pretty much anyone than Tim Boyle. Also, you're going to want to make sure if you are a Devon Achane owner for the Dolphins. He came back last week. I cautioned you on the show on Sunday, live 10 a.m. every Sunday. right here on YouTube on the Sick Podcast. Click that notification bell, subscribe. Do not play a Shane if you had a choice. What happened? Couple touches, back, re-injured that knee. So Mostert, you're lighting him up again. That's something to just keep in mind. Make sure you're going into your running back, getting a little deeper and picking up that extra back potentially if you need to, right? Devontae Foreman's droppable right now. Khalil Herbert back. He's injured. Curtis Samuel, he was a full participant with he was practicing on Monday, so he should be okay. Thanksgiving, track that. Curtis Samuel could be a nice pickup if he got dropped in a lot of leagues. Put him up. And again, desperation, you kind of go Desmond Ridder there. There's nothing too crazy injury-wise. I'm just looking at a quick update there, yeah. But Charbonnet is going to be the hottest ad. Okay? I would still go, if you're the Browns, if he's there, Kareem Hunt. Now, didn't score a touchdown last week, but he had 6 in 5 games beforehand. This for the Browns, Kareem Hunt is going to be there. And David Njoku still floating around in some leagues, okay, despite the drops. He's a go-to, and he's going to get a lot of targets. So David Njoku there as well to keep in mind. So, again, any fantasy football questions, hit me up. Hashtag Ask Andy at AndyMCD1 at SickPodBrowns on Twitter. X, let me know your predictions, too, for the Browns game. For the Buckeyes game, gets that team up north. Get rid of those Harbaughs. Just whiny. They're bred whiny. Harbaugh with Baltimore. Whines. Always looks like he's crying and chirping at the ref. Jim Harbaugh's a cheater, and they're trying to make it there's some rallying cry. Oh, the world's against it. Shut the hell up. You're a cheater. You didn't beat the Buckeyes until you started cheating, Harbaugh, you loser. So go sit on your couch and watch Ohio State kick your ass. How about that on Saturday? And then the Browns are going to go into Denver, and they're going to ride Russell Wilson, remind him why him and Sean Payton are chumps and over the hill. It's going to happen. It's going to be a great weekend for Buckeyes football and for Browns football and for Ohio football. And I'm going to be back with you on Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern. So go Buckeyes. And as always, go Browns.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.